Good morning, everybody. This is Angie Oldenburg coming to you from Wisconsin. Very snowy Wisconsin this morning. Welcome. Hopefully, you've been enjoying all of the presentations that have been going so far. The ones yesterday, I've only been able to watch a couple of them, but I'm hoping to later today or tomorrow get a chance to watch everybody else's. I am just checking to make sure I'm coming up live here, cause gotta make sure. 1 second. Gotta find the right spot. All right, looks like I am live. All right. As anybody else comes on, let me know you're here. I sometimes can see comments, sometimes can't. It's the Facebook thing. You guys all know that. So I'm just going to get started and we will move on. All right. You can jump on anytime, and you can always go back and watch the beginning if you join partway through. So welcome again. So I'm going to be doing a card today based on the Fragrant Layers Bundle, and this is an online exclusive that's new in January. So you can't find it in the catalog. You have to go online. The easiest way to find it is to go on the category of online exclusives and scroll down, and then you'll be able to find it. It does come each individual, of course. The stamp set and the dies come separately, but you can also get it as a bundle with a little discount. So I'll show you the stamp set is pretty much what you see here. I'm going to pull out the dies though, so that you can see the dies. Flip this open, maybe. And some of them are off because I'm going to be using them today. So it is a pretty big die set. You have outlines of the flowers. You get a cool little frame. I'm excited to use that at some point. I have not tried that yet. All these little flowers. I think these are stems, but I haven't really figured out what they are yet. So I got to play with those to see what those are. And then a nice little label. So, okay, cover that back up. There's another label that we're going to be using on the card that I'm making today. So you'll see that also. I'm going to move these out of the way. And then the other thing you've probably noticed if you watched any of the rest of the group, we're focusing a little bit on some of our tools, just to kind of give you guys reminders of the tools that we've got, what the advantages and uses are for them. I'm going to move my name out of the way. So I'm going to work on the paper trimmer. It's an old standby. We've had this one for a while. Stampin' Up's had a few over the years. Of course, I've been around a long time. It's going on 25 years for me. So we've had a few over the years, but this is the current version. So I'm going to use it in the card I'm making today too for a couple uses, but we're just kind of talk about basic uses of it right now. And let me move these out of the way so I can show you some of that. So obviously it cuts paper. That's the main purpose of it. It's got this nice arm here. It's got a cutting blade and a scoring blade on it. And one of the nice features, and I remember when it first came out, this was one of the things that they had showed us, and it is really nice. Either one of them actually will go all the way up and off of your space where your paper is going to be. So you can kind of get it out of the way and still use the other blade while you're doing something on the board. So you don't have to take it off to put it back on, kind of shift your paper around to avoid have this getting in the way. So it goes off the top, or it'll go off the bottom of the trimmer too. So that is a nice touch. The other thing, excuse me, is this arm. So it will go out to 17 inches. So you can certainly cut 12 by 12 paper in our normal 8.5 by 11 or the other forms in the other markets. There is also, this is the Imperial version because I'm in the US, but there is a metric arm that you can purchase. So if you do more in metric, you can replace this with a metric version. So that is absolutely, I would think it would be helpful. Obviously, we've got the these measurements in inches and centimeters, but right on this version, it's only inches. So that's where the metric arm might come in handy for those of you that use that. I do like that there are numbers, the measurements across the top and in the middle and on the bottom. So if you have a bigger piece of paper, you can make sure that it's lined up. These grid lines go all the way up and down. You can make sure your paper is straight in there, and hopefully that will help with your cutting. The blades come in and out pretty easily. You just kind of have to move this a little bit. There's a space down here that's a little bit wider where they pop out. So, and you kind of have to wiggle them and then they'll pop out, right? And this is one that I've had in here for quite a long time. They have a cutting edge on both sides of the blade, so you can cut in both directions, which is nice too. I find that I don't always cut my paper in the same, pattern. Sometimes I put it at the bottom of the trimmer and I cut down, and sometimes I put it at the top and I cut up. So it is nice that there's a cutting edge on both sides. But if you're someone who does it the same direction every time you use it, you can flip that around once the one side gets dull. The scoring blade, there are replacements for both of these, obviously. Boy, I don't know when you would ever, unless you'd lose it, when you'd need a replacement for a scoring blade. Those don't get dull. They're just a little kind of like roller wheel on the bottom here, so it's not something that's going to get dull or worn out. The old trimmer we had, there was a track in here that you take out and replace. This one doesn't have that, but what I would say is make sure that you try to keep that paper out of the inside of there. It can get build up with just the dust from cutting, and sometimes it'll kind of interfere with your cutting. So we're gonna use this, obviously. I already cut my card bases, but I'm gonna use the scoring blade a little bit for today's project. So we'll bring that back in when I get to that. If you have questions about any of the tools too, just let us know, and we can certainly answer them. Okay, so the card I'm making is this one. So it is a fancy fold. This is a little bit out of my, usually I do more simple cards. So this is gonna be fun for me in one way, but it's a little bit stressful too, because like I said, I usually do more simple, straightforward cards. So this mechanism is kind of a fun one. So I will show you how to do that. I'll give you all the measurements and everything, and you can, yeah, I just think this is a fun layout. I've never made this before until I was prepping for this project, so it's really pretty. Okay, so we're gonna bring in Blackberry Bliss card base. So with the trimmer, you could score this. I just am in the habit of just folding it, but I am gonna score the paper for the insert for this mechanism here, and I'll show you how that is. So I also have this put together, and you're welcome to take a screenshot of this. It is the measurements for that mechanism part. So it is 8 inches by 4 1/4 inches. Now this is obviously going to be a little bit different for those of you using metric. Basically what you do is you cut down on your the vertical by just a little bit. For us, for the imperial, it's 1/4 inch, so it'd be a centimeter probably for you. And then we do 8 inches, which is the length of, 8.5 is typically our length of our card. That one might need to be manipulated a little bit just to make sure it's fitting, and I'll explain once I put it together how it fits together. But we're gonna score then at 2.5 inches, 4.5 inches, and 6 inches. So that is that. So let me pull in a blank. I'm using gosh, all my pieces just went all over the place because I flipped my pile over. Hold on. I usually have everything in nice neat piles on my side here so I can grab them. and I just made a mess. Okay, I'm using basic beige today for the insert, and we are going to then score at, and the big thing about the trimmer, you got to make sure you're using the right blade, because I've done that many times where I'm going to score and I cut it. So it happens. You just have to be cognizant about which blade you're using. So this is at the 2.5, and then we're gonna go to 4.5. And then the one other thing I like about this trimmer is to do a measurement of 6. This butts right up against this guide. So this is 6 inches, and you don't have to pull your arm out if you want to do a 6-inch. So if you're cutting a 12 by 12 piece of paper down and you want it in half or in quarters, you don't have to open the arm to do that. So I like that about this trimmer. And then of course, putting it up against the guide on the top, it should be nice and straight. So here are our folds, and I'm not folding them in any particular direction right now. I'm just gonna crease them, and then we'll, because you want to burnish them pretty well so that the card mechanism moves. So you can kind of fold them back and forth a few times, and then once we get to assembling the card, I'll show you how it goes together. So I'm going to set this aside for right now, and then we're going to do our stamping. So that's our folding, scoring and folding. Sometimes think when I do these videos, I need a bigger desk, but my office is only so big, and it's a built-in desk, so that wouldn't work very well. Okay, so then I'm going to pull in, I used very vanilla for what I'm stamping on. When I was putting this together and using this designer series paper, I kind of thought this, when I stamped the flowers on that, it was a little too dark. So I'm just using very vanilla to stamp on and cut out, and then it seemed to be a little bit brighter. So I'm going to be using this large flower from the stamp set, and we're going to use Petunia Pop, because again, it's not Blackberry Bliss, but it's a coordinating color, so it goes well with this paper. And this is a stamp that's not going to be a solid stamp. It's got some texture to it, and so just going to leave it there for a second. Let it absorb, pull it back up. So it's going to be, irregular and blotchy a little bit just because of the dimension on the stamp. And then while we have this paper, let me close this one. I'm going to do the green as well. We're doing Mossy Meadow for the leaves. Just going to see if I can see any comments. I don't think so. I'll probably see them later. I really wish there was a way that I could do it, see them live, and there's 3 sets of leaves in this stamp set, so I'm going to do one of each of them. They all have a die that matches. Just gonna do them a little ways away from each other so we can get the die, and then we can run it through the cut and emboss all at once. Let me pull the dies over here. I have one pre-done because my cut and emboss machine is at another station in my office, and I'm one of these people that I can't die cut sitting. I need to be standing, so it's hard for me to do it at the desk when I'm actually demonstrating something. So this is the die. It's got it's really cool. It's got the texture for the petals in here and for the leaves, or like the buds of the flowers. So just gotta rotate it so it's in the right direction. And then I've been using, we can use washi tape, we can use 3M tape. I just got a whole bunch of sticky notes, so I use those up now that I've finally gone through some of my washi tape that I've had sitting around for a long time, just to hold that in place. And then there are these 2 leaves that are just a little bit different shape. This one's got a little bit more of a curve going this way, so that's this one. And then there's this one that has the 3 leaves. And then this one, that's 2 leaves. You can see I've got washi tape on the back sides of those. So the trick is, if you're trying to do these all through, and you can run it through all at once, is to get them stuck down without moving while you're putting the sticky tape on. So I'll usually do like that one. Oop, that's gonna get crinkled, but that's okay. It's just there, and hope they don't move. All right. So magic of television, I would go run this through my cut and emboss and cut that out. And I have them already done. So we've got the flowers and the leaves. And see, when I did these yesterday, they did move a little bit on me, but that's okay. We like to have a little bit of outline on there anyway. So those are our flowers that we're going to put on the front. We're going to set those aside, and I'm going to start assembling the card a little bit. So again, the card base is Blackberry Bliss, and then we've got this designer series paper, and I should have kept out the name of that one. I forgot it right now. This is, I believe, also an online exclusive. I apologize. So I can't remember exactly. I forgot that to write that one down. So there's a couple ways to do this. Because you want to cut out the whole front of the card, the easiest way to do it, or well, no, there's just multiple ways to do this. I'll just say it that way. The way I would like to try it today, I will say, is I'm just going to put glue. My glue is dry. Hold on. Get that glob out of there. Hold on a second. And then I'll have glue on my fingers. Goodness. All right. So I'm going to put glue just in the corners for now. And then we're going to do more later. Because we're going to cut through both layers of both the cardstock and the designer series paper. So I am going to cut this, but I'm going to have to walk away, unfortunately, to do that. So the die I'm using, now you can, for the fronts of these cards, you can do a square, you can do a circle, you can do more than one circle. There's a lot of varieties out there, lots of ideas out there. So I tack that down just on the corners, and then I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to run it through the cut and emboss. So I'm going to do that, and un momento. I'll be back in a second. You can probably hear me cranking in a minute. Okay, so you put it through flat, or open the card up and then run it through. And then when it comes out, you will have this part, oops, the other part stayed on the, and then you'll have the cardstock part. Let me kind of poke all these little pieces out, get the confetti off of my workspace here. And let me, I'm just going to use so in that way, then you can cut the whole thing out. You can have 2 pieces. You can also use this for another project, or if you wanted to, put this on the back side, and then when you attach it, that designer series paper will be here. So that's another way to do it, is just to cut it out and then like flip them around and adhere them, and then you'll have the pretty paper on the back side too. So lots of different ways to do it. So I'm going to put this aside. I have one that I've already poked all the holes out, so I didn't have to take time to do that. And I am going to just make sure, I'm going to tack this down a little bit better, because we just put pieces, put glue in the corners. So I want to make sure that we've got enough adhesive kind of under all the edges and it's not going to fall apart. So just going to really gently put a couple dots. Now if you're a good glue person, which I am not necessarily, you could very strategically put your glue way along the edges so that you don't have anything in the middle, and still cut that inside out without having to go back and put more adhesive in there. So that's a way to do it too, if you're a good gluer. Glue sticks so well that you don't need a ton of it, but I just want to make sure that doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm going to set this piece aside for a second and we'll assemble our flower. All right, so I'm going to grab all these pieces. I'm trying to make sure that glaring from my light isn't totally obscuring what you're seeing here. And then I'm going to grab some dimensionals. The biggest trick for this mechanism is going to be, or at least for this front panel that's going to move, is if anything that you're putting on here goes off of this shape, so whether it's a circle, whether it's a square, if it goes off, it needs to go off of that to the left and down, because of the direction that the mechanism is going. So if I would put this flower on and the extra was heading up there, it wouldn't open correctly, or it would get stuck. So that's the biggest thing with when you're laying this out. If you want something on the front that's going to extend beyond where the shape is, you need to be aware of where it's going to land and where it's going to be when the card opens and closes. And so for this one, I planned on, so if this is the front of the card, I'm going to make sure all of my pieces that dangle off the edge are going down and to the left. And so then when it opens, it's not going to interfere with the mechanism. So I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back side of the flowers. And just so you know, this was definitely not my original idea. I borrowed it from, I saw it on a video by Don Griffith, but I've seen it other places. I have no idea who came up with the design originally. Sometimes I wish I did know, so I could give him credit for it, because it takes some ingenuity to come up with these designs. The other thing is, you're not going to want to put dimensionals down on this piece if it's going to be part of the paper that moves, so you don't want it to be stuck down, so we're not going to put any down there. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use, I think I'm just going to use glue dots for the back side of the leaves. When I originally made the card, I had put them up on dimensionals, but it was hard to tuck them underneath when I was trying to arrange things. So I'm just going to grab some glue dots this time. Oh, there they are. You know, they make them different now that they end up being on the back side of this piece of paper, and sometimes I lose them. So we'll just add one to each. Whoop. Yeah, these leaves do cut out, so you have to be a little careful getting them out of the die so that the pieces don't parts of the leaf doesn't like rip. I'll put 2 pieces, oops. Gosh, stick into my finger instead of the paper. I might put 1 more on the end of that one so that it doesn't fall off. So then I'm going to sort of lay this out, and then I'm going to put my leaves down first because they're going to be more flat. So I'm going to kind of tuck it, maybe I'll tuck it here. There's no right or wrong on these leaves because leaves can be random. Leaf go. Uh-oh. Well, let me look at my floor. Well, goodness gracious. You know what? This always happens when, oh, there it is on my finger. You're probably yelling at me saying, it's on your finger. They stick to everything. So, all right, so we're layering it this direction. And I think maybe I'll tuck this one kind of underneath here. So that it's coming up out from that top leaf, or top flower. So those are stuck down, and then I'll put the flowers down on the top using dimensionals. If any of you know me and you've watched me for a time on here, you know that having these nails is not normal for me. I went on vacation and I had nails put on, and so even though I've had them on for over a week, I'm just not used to having long nails, so that's part of my fumbling around here today. Okay. So, and then I'm going to lay this kind of back over the top where I had dry fed it. And again, no rhyme or reason, no right or wrong. Flowers flow, right? Okay, so then let's put our mechanism together in the inside of our card. So we'll bring this back in. This again is at 8 inches by 5¼ inches. Making sure my measurements I'm saying my measurements correctly. Scored at 2½, 4½, and 6. And so then we fold this up. And what we're gonna need it to do is this piece, the 2½ inch wide piece, the longest width, is gonna line up on this edge. Okay. And then the folds are gonna fold so that when it's folded down like this, it's gonna fit on the inside of this card. So it's gonna fold flat, and it's gonna end up being the normal dimensions for the inside layer of a card. So for Imperial, it's gonna be 5¼ by 4 inches wide. And so that's what if you have to calculate it or remeasure it for metric versions, you're going to want it to end up being the same size as the inside of your card, and that's how it's going to be able to fold flat and look nice when you're putting it together. And then the other thing I would say, so this 2½ inch side goes down, and then it's going to look like this on the end. So I don't know, I was trying to think of what letter that looks like, but so the mountain is going to be to the left, to the inside crease of your card. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do then is we're going to glue this piece down to the inside of the card, and then we'll do the next steps. So the biggest challenge is getting it flat. So you're gonna line it up against this edge, so that it's looking like the inside layer of your card. And a little bit more, up a little bit more. And I can shift it up. Nice thing about glue, you can move things. For a little bit anyway. Okay, so that looks pretty even edges there. And then we're just gonna let it sit for a second. And then the next gluing is gonna be this side, and you're just gonna wanna make sure that you don't glue in this open space. So I'm gonna put some in the upper corner up here. And this is gonna differ depending on what shape you have cut out of here. For this circle, we can do that. And we can maybe do a really thin line here so that it's on this inside of the circle. And then we'll do more of this bottom. And I'm being a little stingy on my glue because I don't want it to smear all over the place. I'm trying to get the cover on with one hand and it's not working. Okay, and then you're just gonna close the front of your card on top. And this is what we're gonna have to let sit just a second so that it sticks before we start assembling the rest of the mechanism. So while that is sitting, I'm gonna just kind of do that so it stays there. I already stamped and die cut these two pieces because I knew this is going to take me a little longer to make this card. So this is the other die that comes in this set. It's a tag, but it cuts out two pieces. So when you cut it out of a piece of paper, oops, I didn't get the right color because I was trialing different colors. So this is beige. It's gonna cut out, I stamped and then I cut it out and it's gonna come out in two pieces. So I wanted to have two different layers, or two different colors on my little label. So I also cut it out in Blackberry Bliss. And so I have these two pieces that came out. So now since I'm using one of each, I've got the opposite that I can use on another card. So that's kind of fun. You have two for the price of one when you're cutting these out. And I'm gonna just grab my silicone mat here, because it's always hard. How do you put these down on a page? It's a little bit tough. Sometimes you can use glue, and if you're really a good gluer, you can use our shoot. Forgetting the name. The fine point glue. But what I found just as easy is I flip this over, put it on my silicone mat, laid it in here, and use my tape. Oh geez, dropping things today. Use my tape runner and put tape just so it hits both pieces. And then I flipped it back over, make sure that it's not running off the edge, and then I'm going to lay it down on the front of the card. So lots of ways to do that. Certainly works to glue, and you can glue them separately too, but I found this just as easy if you're a tape runner person. Okay, so we got that piece together. On to adding the circle. Okay, I'm going to take that weight off of there. And so now we have our mechanism. So this side's adhered and this side is adhered, and you've got this, it's kind of like a reverse H. I don't know what letter that would be. Anyway, so that's your mechanism. So the next piece is to put this part on. So you're going to lay it flat, and you're going to dry fit however you want it in there. And I kind of like it like that. And then you are gonna kind of keep that, you're gonna put glue only on this section. So here's the fold. I'm not sure how easy that is to see. Let me bring it up to the camera. So here's that score line. You're only gonna put glue on this side. And when I did it, I kept the card front closed and I just did it right there versus opening it up and trying to guess where I was putting my glue. So here we go. We're gonna put glue only on this side. And then you're gonna, the biggest trick I found is to getting it laid in there so that it's pretty straight and even, and that it sits right in the open space. So I'm gonna put it right, layer it in there, and make sure that it's not hanging over the edge on, like, over the edge of the circle, because then it won't open as well. It will still open, but it'll catch a little bit on that side piece of paper. And then you open it up and there's your mechanism. It is, I think it's just such an ingenious fold. It is super cute. So that is how that goes together. Then I just grab some antique pearls just to add a little bit of bling. And also because I was putting this flower heading down and off of the circle, I wanted a little bit of something up here. I felt like that was a little blank space up there that needed something, so that's why I added some pearls in there. So we're just gonna add that one and a little one. And then I think I had put one down on the bottom, but that one's really hard to see, so I don't know that we need to add that one, because it kind of just blends into the designer series paper. So I'm just going to put 2 on there. And then you can put whatever greeting you want on the inside. You can leave it blank for writing something. Yeah, so that is the card. I hope you enjoyed it. I had fun making it because, again, normally I do pretty straightforward cards and don't do fancy fold sorts of things, but it was kind of fun to do this one. So I hope you liked it. Let me just make sure I'm remembering everything I was needing to tell you. Don't forget to talk to your demonstrator if you would like to place an order or place an order online with them. And I'm sure everybody else has been saying this, but this is a really good time to kind of layer up your benefits. There's some perks going on right now. There's bonus days, so you earn money back to use on another purchase. There's also the product of the month that is actually a really cute stamp set with a lot of nice greetings in it. I think Maureen had posted a picture of that in the group, so if you haven't seen it yet, you can scroll through and find that. And yeah, and then we'll have the product or our project PDF if you place an order with us too. So I think that's all I have today. Have a wonderful day. Maureen is going to be up next at the top of the hour for the next presentation. Don't forget to go back and watch the others from yesterday if you haven't seen them. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.